Hey folks, Brian, apologies for the background sound thing. I'm not sure what's going on, but trying to mess with my mic to see what may be happening. I thought maybe my camera mic was on instead of this, but yeah, I'm not sure what's happening or not happening. But anyway, we played Elderath on Saturday night. And as we mentioned last time, we were holed up in Hamlet for the winter, so we went from Lotar, which is the 8th day of the month, the start of winter, week 3, day 3, to Alor, week 1, day 2, which is the beginning of spring. That's 93 days, or 8 weeks for training. So Raymond's got this idea. He's going to make some warrior monks. And between the Abbey and the Manor, we should have the physical resources we need. We have a core of experienced warriors. And then Raymond would like to set up a school where he can train people, probably starting with the youth of Hamlet in martial skills and religious training. To that end, he wants to be on the lookout for books from the Paladin and Ranger base lists. Do basic inventory of the Abbey and of what skills the town folks have that they can share. He hasn't really talked much about his plans for the Abbey, but this is it. So between the Abbey and the Manor, oh, this is a duplication. Alright, so Krim and Hjalmar would also play a big part in this whole warrior monk thing that he's trying to piece together. Long-term plans kind of thing. Hjalmar plans to study literacy in Latin and court lore. Runt is going to study meditation and work on some mentalism lists at the Undersea Temple. So he's going to be gone for most of the winter from Hamlet. Wes, long-term plans, right? So we need to get more military forces out here to do manning for the moat house and hopefully the dwarven outposts as well. He's going to follow up his letter requesting additional soldiers for the moat house to provide security and to do reconstruction in the moat house. He's also going to spend time each week attempting to commune with Maliki out on the butte across the river. So he wants to add to the professionalization of the tower guards. Wes, who's also Dylan, has this military skill. I forgot what it's called. That's the difference between trained soldiers working together and a rabble force, right? So these guys used to be bandits, and I'm assuming they've had some kind of professionalization, but Wes wants to really turn that up, and so he's going to be teaching them these battle skills working together. He does have spear skills. We could do it with spear, but he's actually trained specifically in the use of dagger for that. Okay, so he's also going to spend some time searching Burns and Rufus's rooms for stuff. And he was willing to assist Runt with his essence casting, but we weren't really able to coordinate that properly. Okay, all right. So more specifically, Wes wants to research, practice, train in Elvish literacy in Elvish. And there's also an Elvish fencing book that he has. It's one of the 10 books he got out of the the martial library in the temple. Because that's the kind of stuff he was specifically looking for at the time. So there's also some books on one-hand sword skill and shield use as well. Okay, so in order to increase his literacy with Elvish for training, he's got to do that at Telgar. So he's going to spend, there's like 9, I said 8 weeks, didn't I? I was wrong. It's actually 9 weeks of training time that we have available. So we're going to spend a third of that working with the tower guard in their military skills, discipline kind of stuff. And he's going to spend third of that working on his literacy. And then another third is going to take up travel time between going back and forth to Telgar to get... It's like he goes to Telgar for a week, comes back, works with the Elvish fencing book, travels back to Telgar, spends a week there with his Elvish, comes back and tries with the book again, and a third week going to Telgar, studying Elvish, and come back and train with the book for a week. So he gets 3 weeks of training. No, he gets 1, 2, 3. No, he's only get 1 week of actual training with the book between the travel time and the time he'll spend in Telgar. I had it worked out some way, but he ends up with 3 weeks of training on literacy and just 1 week because there's going to be travel time involved with the book. At one point, that's what he's saying is go out for a week, come back, train with the book. But then because of the travel time to and from Telgar, that takes up a lot of time. So end up just 1 week of training with the book itself, and then 3 weeks of training with Elvish in Telgar. Okay. So while Wes and Hjalmar are in Telgar, because Hjalmar is going to Telgar to do this literacy Latin stuff, the church should be able to provide for him that sort of training with at least a decreased cost, if not free. That's what we're thinking. We're also kind of thinking that since he's a knight under a knight to Raymond, that the church knights, he should be able to, his horse should be able to get, some maintenance there without it costing too much. And if he has to, Wes has offered up the apartment because he's got a place there for his horses as well, and that they can stable him there, and that Wes's family will pick up the tab for that. I'm trying to keep Wes out of that kind of business because he essentially has unlimited funds, but we don't want to be jacking with that kind of stuff. Okay, so while Wes and Hjalmar are in Telgar, Hjalmar decides to turn in his sword to the church based upon the evil manifestations that occurred in the cemetery underneath the moat house. Okay, this thing is evil. We need to get it put away, kind of thing, or taken care of, destroyed, etc. So he goes to the church, and Wes is there to help him. And the priest is really skeptical about this sort of thing. He does his detect magic stuff, and hey, this isn't magical. Just go ahead and break it. And so he tries to break it, and he's not able to. And the priest kind of looks at it, tries to hit it harder, that kind of thing, to really bang it up, kind of deal. And it's not going to break. And at that point, the sword speaks to Hjalmar. It says, "I can grant you great power. Pick me up and kill the priest." So Hjalmar kind of mentions that to the priest, and Wes backs him up on that. So the priest goes to get Bishop Carter. And so Bishop Carter comes back, and he starts to cast a number of spells. And as he does so, the sword transforms from this fairly plain-looking broadsword into this Zweihander, Flambeer's kind of sword, right? Huge thing with the extra grip to do that funky thing, and it's got that little crossbeam teeth at the end, and that's all shaped like a tongue, and there's like this mouth motif at the bottom of it, and it's got this purpley smoke all around it. And Carter at that point recognizes the sword. He says, "I know you. You shall be imprisoned." And the sword then talks to Hjalmar. "It's not too late. Strike him down, and you'll become more powerful than you can imagine." But Hjalmar's not having anything to do with that. He says it's way too late for that. And so Carter shoos everyone out, and he tells the priest to bring Sir Michael. No one is to enter this room until he gets here. So once Sir Michael arrives, Carter says, "It's an implementer." And that Sir Michael recognizes that. that gets his attention immediately, and he starts questioning Hjalmar about all the information he can about the sword. Where did he come from? How long did he have it? You know, all that kind of stuff, right? And this has been in his family for generations, so he doesn't really know where it came from and that sort of thing. And then Sir Michael says, let us imprison it in the vaults below. So they go down. We go with them to a certain point, but then there's these doors, you know. Sword and Sir Michael go through. I think Bishop Carter went with him. We stay behind. But after Sir Michael comes back, Wes kind of asks the question, hey, could that sword have caused the damage to Wes's brother? Wasn't Jonathan? It was But at the tournament, when Sir Michael was fighting him, there was this magical event occurred. We figured some kind of evil manifestation teleported in, replaced the sword Sir Michael was using with a sword of wounding that really damaged Wes's brother. And so Wes is kind of thinking maybe the sword was there, it saw what was happening, took advantage of that, but Sir Michael doesn't think that's the case. Okay, so Raymond comes to Telgar. So Raymond and Wes and Hjalmar check out the far horizons. Raymond's got this idea. We were talking about, okay, what can we do? Because, you know, we want the Valley Forge, but it's got that huge hole in it. So they're looking through spell lists, trying to figure out what can we do to help, you know, fix the Valley Forge. There's got to be a way for the far horizon, which is the boat that can fly, the flying boat that we now can go into space because it's got this field generator that keeps an atmosphere around it. So we're looking through the far horizon, looking for ways to get, you know, onto the Valley Forge. And as we're doing so, Wes finds a hidden locker with 3 EVA suits in it. These are custom made with the Far Horizons logo, which has the 2-masted brig kind of symbol on it. They're size 12, 14, and 11. And it's there's some adjustment there, plus or minus one size. And it's tech level 13. And I want to say the Imperial Normal back in the Far Horizon universe, the Nebula, the Horsehead Nebula, where Dylan's from, was Tech 12. I think it's kind of a parallel with on parallel with Traveler, I think. I could be wrong. So these are higher tech than normal. Maybe Tech 10 was normal out there. And it's a different tech level scale. But anyway, these are upper tech suits. Okay. Also, in the engine room there's a device that we don't know what it's for. And actually, I found some notes previously that someone had determined that this device is not connected to any of the power systems of the ship. Okay, so while Wes is searching around, there's a brief moment that this device has writing that started to glow, on the device itself. That's similar to the runes on the gate stones and in the Black Towers, the same sort of motif and design and manifestation, right? Hjalmar's kind of, hey, is this a jump drive? Because Hjalmar has some jump drive tech, but it's not like anything he has seen. So Wes tries to put a magic point into it, but nothing happened. Raymond does so as well, and there's a wave that goes through the device, and as it propagates across the surface, the lettering appears but then starts to fade. And Raymond gets the sense that there is a well here that is empty, just like at the gate underneath the moat house. Now, if we can give this thing enough juice, it just might start up. So Wes uses the crystal to send 20 magic points into the device, but he, again, doesn't notice anything. But the lettering does appear, but it's changing, like it's on a computer screen. changing, the letter things kind of deal. So Wes and Hjalmar get the feeling that there is insufficient power for the plotted course. These aren't words, obviously. It's just this feeling, right? This hunger that the device needs to go where it's supposed to be going. For a brief moment, there is a feeling of a 3D image, but it's like when you're looking at a 3D image on paper, you unfocus your eyes and you can see the image kind of thing. That's the impression we kind of get. So Wes and Hjalmar discuss, not adding any more fuel since there's a course plotted. Wes thinks it's back to Mephistopheles, home. But Wes does want to go there, right? But Hjalmar doesn't. And Wes is telling him, hey, the battle is there. And Hjalmar says that, it's here as well. And Wes does know that because there's something here they still need to finish. But when Hjalmar says that, he gets this vision that the fight really isn't here, it's someplace else. That place where he had a vision earlier of Sylvanus fighting the smoky-eyed creature. And then Hjalmar also gets this feeling that, he has done this before. It's a deja vu moment, right? Fighting that smoky-eyed thing. So Raymond decides he's going to go to the computer room. And see if he can't find what course is plotted. And sure enough, he does find there is, in fact, a plotted course. There is a destination, but the coordinates to that destination don't make any sense. Wes can't figure it out either, and neither can Hjalmar. And we're using advanced mathematics and three-dimensional physics and something else. That kind of stuff, right? We can't figure it out. We also do notice that there seems to be a separation between the flow of power or power distribution between the regular drives and this device. That goes back to that comment I made earlier about previously we knew that this thing was not connected to the regular power drive. Okay, so Wes is able to research his elvish fencing book, and it's to treat it like a martial art. So it's one of those, this skill with this skill. If you make it underneath the skill, then these effects happen. It's like riding and normally when you do ride and attack, it's the lower of the two. But it's more like Wes's fencing skill with his rapier skill. Even if he misses the fencing skill, the rapier skill still attacks. He's able to hit. But if he gets under the fencing skill, then he gets the special riposte type effect. So there's this martial art type effect that Wes can get if he gets his if he rolls underneath the elvish fencing skill level. So we get back to Hamlet. Runt's there, and he recalls that because we're talking about trying to repair the Valley Forge. He said, "Hey, remember when Hermes and almost got killed? That was a welder that landed on my head." So we know there's a welder in Herman's, and there's some conversation about going back and stealing it or buying it for cheap. And that reminds me, the live plays in the description if you're interested in listening to that kind of stuff. Okay, so spring is hit. We're going to head off to the Dwarven Outpost. So we head south along the road and we cross the bridge. As we cross the bridge, we notice in the distance about a dozen orcs moving on the other side of the river, heading southeast. Okay, so we follow and trace. We put Runt out front because he can be quiet and stuff. But as we're traveling along, Wes spies some kind of motion in the bushes between us and Runt. And he kind of whispers, hey, there's some motion in the bushes up there. Let's keep our eyes open. And so we move up, and as we get there, orcs jump out to attack. But since we're not surprised, their ambush did not work. So Wes casts asleep. He got a couple of them, and one turns and flees. Others attack, and Wes ends up getting hit in the head and goes unconscious. Drop his hit points right to 0. He doesn't have a lot of armor. I'm sorry. But he gets healed, and they come up and he starts doing a long range. That's a 300-foot shock bolt. He overcharges it. That's a lot of magic points. So he's able to hit the orc, but isn't able to do anything or do much. Okay, the rest of the orcs then come across the river and attack. And there are two bowmen standing back, plinking at Wes, and he gets hit badly a number of times. Both arms, a leg, in the chest. In fact, he got down to just a couple of hit points, if I remember right. But once there comes up to them, he does a sleep 5, and he puts down all the remaining orcs but one. And that one starts to take off. Hjalmar runs up, tries to grapple with him twice, but he ends up getting away. These orcs had very high dodge skills, by the way, and were very slippery. But when we get to the river, Wes is looking up and down. Well, he's looking downstream because the river is running downstream. He knows the orc is going to pop up downstream. So he's watching down there, and when he pops up, he's within range of a lightning bolt. So Wes fires an overcharged lightning bolt at him. And then further on, an overcharged long-range shock bolt. That's still enough to bring him down. When the orcs attacked, Wes was able to trigger his lightning bolts. Got stored in his staff, and we're rolling. Okay, what's the odds of them? More than one being in a row, because it's a long. It can hit more than one person at a time. And sure enough, they all kind of popped around the trees to come at us, and they're in a row. And he managed to get all 5 of them. It was amazing. Okay, but anyway, once the fight's all over with, Wes cuts the heads off of all of the orcs, uses their hair to tie the heads into the branches of this one tree on the riverbank. It's a signpost. There's a new warden of the East marches. And that's where we ended the game. Happy gaming.